Okay, so I have a Facebook group where people come in and ask random questions, and the group has been dead for a little while because the initial idea of the group was to provide feedback on tracks, and people would send tracks to give some feedback, and I think we got a little bit bored of it, and a lot of the users that were in the group were starting to post less, and I had like less time to comment, and I also felt like the feedback I was providing was always the same thing on and on. And for a little while, it felt really good, but in the last few years, I just kind of got a little bit out of it, to be honest. And so recently, I opened up on Facebook this group chat for the Facebook group, and now we talk about like random technical issues or technical questions that people have. And so this will provide some good ideas for making content that I can after that post on YouTube. I have COVID right now, so I have a really nice voice for making this. So this is one of the reasons why I do this. One question is about textures in audio, which is kind of a topic that it seems to never get old. Like a lot of people that are into the music that I do are really into textures, are really into like ASMR. If you're not familiar with ASMR, they are these like little sounds that are very ear pleasing, and for some people it provides like chills, or it calms them down, or it has some benefits. And in my case, I'm one of those people that are strongly affected by ASMR, which is one of the reasons why a lot of ASMR is also in my music. I love textures, I love movement, and so people ask me like, how do you do movement and texture in music? And so I thought, okay, let's make a little video and explain concepts of what is textures and why it's exciting, and how to make your own after that. So first of all, just to do this, I'm gonna load up oscilloscope. I can't talk today. Will provide a visual feedback of the audio that I'm playing. So I'm going to play some music that has some what we call textures. So this is one, and you hear the movement. You hear this kind of like clickety click texture, which is an audio movement. And if we look at it, we can see that it has all these like weird movements. And this for the ear, it's super ear pleasing. So one thing I didn't do here is open up FabFilter so that we can look in terms of harmonics, what it looks like. So we see that it's mostly in this sense, like we see that there's content here, and then there's like some elements of harmonics that are here as well. And what we could do is we could shape this, and by shaping this, I mean by using an EQ. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come here, and I'm seeing that here you can see that all the textures that are here. I'm gonna lower this. And the envelope follower is showing us what kind of envelope. So people are sometimes like overlooking the envelope follower. They're not sure what to think about it, how to use it. But the envelope follower is basically I find it's like a hack or a cheat code, or like a tool sent from God that can do so many things. You can use for mixing, for sound design, for just like arranging your music so that it's like, like it gives life to music. And basically what an envelope does, it's following the sound that's coming in, and it will draw the sound shape. So in this case, the shape, like every time that it goes up and down, and amplitude, this is a movement, and the envelope follower is just following that. So we see that it does this, and then I can give it a little bit more gain, And if I play with the fall, then we just change like the way it moves. So if I put fall like this, it becomes very detail less. And if I do this, it will come back. And if I do this, it's going to be a different kind of curve. Okay. So what we do with this? Well, we can map this to basically anything we want, and that will like create a texture, but with something else. So just to wrap it up, because I know I feel like I'm going in every direction, but when it comes to sound design, you have first of all the content, like what is the sound that you're working with, and then you have the movement or the envelope. So you could have like a very rigid, simple note, which would be like a beep, you know, that has no movement. It's just like a signal. But if you modulate the amplitude, then that will go like beep, beep, beep. And that, you know, like that would be like a square LFO on it. Now, where it gets trippy and where it gets fun is when you have very fast movement on this, and that will result into creating these texture, like I said. So this one, for instance, could have been done like this. I'm not sure how they do it. Maybe it's modular, maybe it's just like a synth, but it's filled with a lot of this goodness. So there's other sounds here that also have texture. This one is interesting because it sounds lo-fi and there's all these like movement. I can see the movement with the shape of the black, I don't know how to explain, the form. So we see that it's black, it's really kind of like dense. And this is like where there's movement. So this is movement. So if I play this and I come in the envelope follower, we can see this is the movement it has. Again, of course, I had the envelope, I have the EQ8 on this, so that's why it was sounding lo-fi. We have different kind of movement, so we will have like different kind of result. If we try to synthesize some notes of ours, like this is the operator. Right now, I'm just going to play a note. It's kind of boring. But if we play a lower note, and I'm just going to play a note here. Okay, if I go back into Shaper Box, now we see there's movement, right? And we see this movement. And this is fun to watch because this is another oscilloscope, like a classic one. And then we see the movement, we perceive it, but we can't really hear that much because, of course, it's low in amplitude. So I'm going to give it a little boost. And then if I bring this up, okay, we're getting textures here. And I'm gonna just put this on. I'm gonna kind of cut a little bit of the low end. And I'm gonna get in here the modulators, I'm gonna get the envelope follower, and we see the movement here. Okay, now I'm gonna do FM synthesis, which means that I'm gonna take a second oscillator. This is the first oscillator. I'm gonna take a second one, and this one is going to modulate the first one. As you can see, that the texture quality gets very different. And if we want to just accentuate that, we can use a saturation. Saturation will sort of like add even more harmonics. I have to put the limiter on this because this is getting ugly. I'm going to put the limiter right here. And now we see even more textures, okay? And now where it gets fun is, you know, if I add more effects such as the redux, get a good dose of harmonics here. And this as well. And now what we can do, and this is where it gets a bit funky, is I'm going to put this and then I'm going to map this to the frequency. And I'm going to just bring the gain in and this. So you see the difference between these, like depending on where you put it, you're gonna get different textures. So these are really interesting to pull out synthesis in terms of textures. And the thing I like about like the envelope follower here is just like it's adding a nice touch of like something trippy. But something that works well here would be just using an LFO. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to map the LFO to the frequency here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go fast. Oh, I think I made it crash. So let's get... So you hear the clickety-click. We can go crazy with this. So I'm gonna just map this to the resonance and go like this. And I'm gonna not go too crazy, but still crazy. You can recognize the wobbliness and the kind of aesthetic of dubstep and doing something like that. And this is one of the reasons why in dubstep they're obsessed about movement, obsessed about modulation, and a tool like Shaperbox is extremely useful for that because Shaperbox will bring a lot of like options in terms of movement. It really comes handy with like lots of modulation aspects such as the volume. So if I go here and go into 116 with rhythm, like I'm gonna go faster. Now you can shape it. It's faster, and you can hear this texture now. And then I can do the same thing with right? And you have different other options. You can also add a bit of panning. So all these options are tools that you can use for modulation. And so I'm gonna come back to our sounds that are here, and especially this one. I'm gonna come here, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna map this to the gain. But on this, it doesn't make any sense. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drop it here. And so the envelope of this sound that we like is going to be modulating the amplitude of a sound here. So I'm going to show you, for instance, these are noise, okay? If we look at this on the oscilloscope, you see there's not much going on. Sometimes there's like a bit of movement, all right? So there's not much textures. There's texture because there's noise. And we, as humans, love noise. Like, you probably don't realize, but you love noise without knowing. And if I come here with this, I'm just gonna stop this silliness. If I come here, we see like it's just noise. Nothing quite exciting. But what we can do is we can modulate this, because this has no movement, or if it has movement, it's just kind of like lost. And a good example is this one here. See, there's birds, but the back noise is... We see that the bird sound has texture as well, but there's noise behind it, which means that it cannot have the impact of this one, because this one doesn't have a noise floor. By noise floor, I mean like the psh in the back. The less you have noise floor, the more textured your sound will be. So, because what makes a sound as fluctuation is the difference between the highest point and the lowest point. So if your lowest point is a noise of psh, you know, the difference between the two will be kind of little. But if there's more space, then it really like it sounds exciting. So what we can do is we can modulate this. And I'm using the envelope follower, and it's modulating this. Just have to do an adjustment here. Now I can just remove this. I can listen to this now. You see how exciting it is now for the ear? We can see that there's movement. We can perceive it because there's difference. So a lot of times, like people that make minimal and techno and, you know, kind of like organic techno, they put a lot of stuff. And there's so much that you can't really perceive anything. Especially if you just like fill it up with layers and layers and layers and layers. Eventually, there's nothing you can't really discern, and it just becomes a huge tapestry of like yummy or gooey stuff, which is ear pleasing, but the texture is not hitting through it properly. So sometimes you kind of need to lower the number of things that you have and kind of focus on what you have here. And so now I could try like different kind of envelopes, and this will be modulating my source. Very strange. It's a good reminder that you can do percussion out of anything using an envelope follower, because I could put like just like a simple, here, let me grab percussion. Just gonna drop it here. Fucking hell. Okay, so these drums. So that's also a good way is that you can, people rely a lot on compression and sidechaining, but I find that you can use this trick with the envelope follower to modulate a bunch of things and clear out the mix quite much with this. So that's it for today, and thanks.